My experience happened about 3 months ago. I have always been a believer of the paranormal. I have seen things in my lifetime most people laugh about or joke around with. The truth is, there are other worlds out there, a spiritual world, and the experience I will talk about is one that, until today, still scares me. There isn't a day that goes by where I don't think about it. It all began with a book my sister-in-law insisted I should read. As a curious one, I opened it and began to read one page after another. The book spoke of ways to bring spirits back to speak to them. It gave detailed descriptions of sacrifices and named names of demons that would help throughout all of these practices. A few paragraphs in, I decided this was too much for me, so I returned the book and figured I'd forget about it soon. I was so wrong. That night, I was on the phone with my boyfriend as I lay in bed, and in a moment, this strong, violent wind came blowing, hitting my back with a great force. This made me very cold and scared at the same time. I was too scared to look back because this wind came out of nowhere. My window was sealed shut as a younger kid, so there was no reasonable explanation for why this was happening. Then I felt something staring at me, and I grew more anxious and scared. I tried yelling for help, but it was as though I was paralyzed. From the distance in the wind, I could hear this vicious dog sound, like approaching me, getting closer and closer, only I knew deep inside it was not a dog, but a demon. I was a strong Christian believer, so I claimed the blood of Jesus in my mind since I couldn't talk. I told the demon that the Lord was on my side and that he couldn't take me or hurt me like he wanted to. I kept praying until I came back, and I could finally hear my boyfriend on the phone again. I asked him if he heard something, and his response was that it had been absolutely silent, and he had thought that I had fallen asleep. But I knew this was something real because I could always hear my boyfriend. And though I tried asking him to help, nothing came out. I never went to sleep that night. And I know that I opened some kind of door by reading that book, and the next days proved it to me. I took a camping trip with my boyfriend's family for the next couple of days. I was relieved I didn't want to sleep in my room again. I thought it would all stop and I'd finally have some peace. I was so wrong. Every night of that trip, this thing came back and just sat at the foot of my bunk beds, where I'd hear it growl, and it would be a constant battle to make it go away. Not one of those nights was I alone, yet no one heard or saw anything. As ironic as this may sound, I knew this was a demon. From before all of these things started happening, I had seen him in my dreams. I guess reading that book made him more powerful. And now, he was after me, and I don't exactly know what he wanted me for. As soon as I made it home from the trip, I called my sister and insisted she come down to pray for me. We decided I would sneak that book from my sister-in-law's room, and we would burn it as we prayed and asked for protection from God. The hour came and we began. I won't forget that day. It seemed that as we began to pray, a strong wind started throwing and blowing away all the pages of the book that we had torn out. It took hours before all the pages were consumed. And I saw the demon run through my window. I knew then things would be okay as a big sense of relief finally came over me. My sister and I talked about our experience, and she described a demon that looked like a dog, only he had stood on 2 legs and was taller than both of us, with red eyes and pointy ears. Again, I have seen this demon before, but never so close. I was glad it was finally over. I could sleep again. Since this happened, my sister-in-law doesn't talk to me. She has done so many things to be sure I am miserable, and I know why. She shared this demon with me for a few brief days, and I pissed it off. I only hope one day she turns to God. Practicing these things tie you down, so be careful with what you read. I learned my lesson. I'm sorry if this was long, but it was my true story. I hope you believe me, and these things truly do exist. I should start out by saying that I have experienced paranormal activity since I can remember. This particular instance is the first that I can actually recall in full detail. I was about 4 years old, and I would have nightmares throughout the night. I would wake up sweating, sometimes crying because they frightened me so bad. What would scare me even more is what I would see when I would open my eyes. Mind you, I was fully awake at this point. I would always see, just across the room, a floating head, usually with a skull or demonic-looking face in the middle. It was generally white and misty. I would squeeze my eyes shut, trying hard to get it to go away and reopen them, just to have it still there and staring at me. I remember then focusing on this being, making sure it wasn't just a shadow or something in my room making that shape. I realize it sounds ridiculous that a 4-year-old can have that much insight, but I had always been mature for my age. I would pray and pray, but nothing would happen. Eventually, I would become so terribly overwhelmed with fear. I would begin to scream and bang on the wall that separated mine and my parents' rooms, begging my dad to come in the room with me. He would drag in there, push me over, and lay in front of me in the twin bed so that I was against the wall. At times, I would peek over to see if the being was still there, and 9 times out of 10, it was. My dad was just unaware and just went right to sleep. At any rate, this being still haunts me. It definitely isn't as frequent as it was when I was younger, but I'll know when it appears. The presence in the room will be so strong and so dark that I begin to shake, but can't physically move to turn the lights on. I become paralyzed with fear. If anyone has any ideas on how to send this terror back to where it belongs, that would be awesome. I have tried to do several rituals, but it always comes back no matter what. I am tired of being scared and tired of being terrified of the dark. This story happened to me 11 years ago at my house on the south side of Tucson, Arizona. Up to this date, it still haunts me because I don't know what I saw or why I saw it, but I saw it, and it scared the hell out of me. I was 19 years old at the time. It was around 8 p.m. It was dark outside, and I was in my room sitting at my desk. I was on the phone talking to my cousin when I happened to look outside. Now, my desk is facing the window, so I looked and I saw a shadowy figure staring at me. It didn't freak me out at first because I actually thought it was my mom. The figure was about 4'9", the same size as my mom. And also it had short shoulder-length hair, and the stance was just like my mom. Thinking it was my mom, I knocked on the window and asked what she was doing, but there was no response. Then I opened the window and asked the same thing again. No response. I could see that the head was turning left and right a couple of times. Suddenly, I heard a knock on my door. It was my mom saying, "Dinner's ready." I turned and looked at the door, then looked back at the window, and the shadow figure was gone. I said the words, "Oh, hell no." I asked my mom if she had been in the back, and she said no. I haven't been out there all day. How about Dad? I asked. Nope, he has been watching TV for the last hour. I never could find an explanation or figure out what I saw. If you would like to comment on this, please do so. All feedback is welcome. Oh, by the way, no trace of any footsteps were found outside at all. Very freaky. It's been a while since I've posted anything here. I've been waiting for something more unusual to happen before I actually posted another story. A few things have happened, but I'll start with the scariest. It was about an hour ago that this occurred. I was laying in my bed, browsing the site, when suddenly I heard this low growl. I was paralyzed with pure terror. I don't think I could have moved even if I wanted to. In fact, I'm still kind of shaky and scared. I got kind of a warm shiver, but it was definitely not pleasant at all. After it happened, I heard a motorcycle outside. I suppose that's what it could have been, but it didn't sound exactly like a motorcycle. It was definitely some sort of animal, and it sounded like it was right here in my room. Now for the less scary stories. A couple months ago, I was trying to sleep, and I heard a few of the boxes under my bed being bumped around. My first thought was that it was one of my cats, but I checked and nothing was there. It happened twice that night. Also, earlier today, something fell on my shelf, and nothing was there to provoke it to do so. Poltergeist? I'd like to hear your opinions on these events. I can't tell my family about this, by the way. They do not believe in the paranormal. I'm not even sure if I do. But how else can all of this be bloody explained? If demons have the powers to manipulate physical objects, do angels? That would explain the fact that not all hauntings are harmful and evil. This just started happening tonight from what I can tell, but 2 identical antique porcelain dolls that I have kept on my bed just started giggling. Before I go on, however, I want to tell you a little bit about how I got these dolls. Both are most definitely older than I am. The first doll is Elizabeth, the one we keep with her hair up, and was handed down to me by my mother to take care of. Despite having her leg broken twice before being glued back on and being restuffed, she is in very good condition. The second doll that I decided to name Victoria, however, I ended up finding in a Goodwill with a 96-cent sticker stuck in her hair not even a month ago. I was walking down one of the aisles and spotted a dress I recognized as the one the doll Elizabeth had. I was pretty startled to say the least, but I bought her and I brought her home. Until that point in time, Elizabeth had been in a box in the closet, so nothing bad would happen to her. When I got home with the new doll Victoria, however, I took Elizabeth out of the closet and the 2 dolls have been on my bed, propped up together against one of the pillows ever since. As for the giggling, everything has been silent up until tonight. I was preparing to take a shower when I walked past my bedroom, and something caught my attention. A rather soft noise. Stopping, I leaned in from the doorway and listened closely. To hear what sounded like 2 young girls giggling about what might be an inside joke or something amusing to them, it kind of sent a shiver up my spine. But I ignored it and instead told my mother. Once she knew what I heard, I took my shower, only to come back out with my little brother freaking out about the hall light staying on. Apparently, the girl started giggling as he passed my bedroom doorway on the way to tell my mom goodnight. So, ghouls, which one was the scariest out of these 5 Arizona stories? I mean, I can't be the only one who finds the porcelain dolls terrifying. You know, I'm a medium, but once I hear a voice, a giggle, anything come out of a porcelain doll, any toy, any stuffed animal, I am noping the fuck out of there so fast. You would think I ran in the Olympics. I mean, have you guys seen Annabelle? Shit goes down when dolls start talking. And don't forget, Saturday, there will be a Paranormal Podtivity podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I will post a video later today talking about, the subject and whatever. If you guys want to get questions ready for tomorrow night, that would be fantastic. And as always, my last video will be on the top left. My next video will be on the bottom left. On the screen, all of my social medias will be shown, and they will be in the description, well, whichever ones I put, because sometimes I forget to add most of them. And the secret word will be knife. Like a knife that you spread butter with, or a knife that you cook with, a knife. So you could type knife, you could put a knife emoji. My comments are going to be hype with knives. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to look at the comments, And for the ghouls that watch all the way through my ranting for 2 minutes after the video, I will see knives just in the comments, and people who don't watch all the way through are going to be like, what's going on? Why are there all these knives? Alright guys, I hope to see you at the podcast, and remember, there's always someone or something watching you.